They had her like taking photos of like random points and she would just be like, Parisian living, hashtag Paris. And she eventually becomes this like influencer.
You don't come to Paris to be good.
Sexy. Oh, would you stop?
And all the clubs had to have really good soundproofing, so you open the door and it's like, and then you close the door and it's like, Parisian night. And you can hear the wind.
Look, I want us to win. Together.
It's a little controversial. I like it.
Ba-da-ba! Welcome to my new space. So I feel I am the perfect person to be reviewing Emily in Paris on Netflix because, one, I'm a marketing professional when I am not making videos for you all. By the way, subscribers, love ya. Number two, I actually worked in the same exact building in Chicago that is shown in the first I think it's like the first thing you see in the show when season 1, episode 1 starts. So I worked in the same building technically as Emily from Emily in Paris. And on top of that, I've also been to Paris, which I will tell you guys more about and give you my thoughts on whether or not I think you should visit there in the future. Starting off, what I really enjoyed was, one, the chemistry between her and her best friend, who's played by Ashley Park, who I found out was actually an ex-Broadway person. So I really enjoyed their chemistry. I thought it was cute, and overall I really enjoyed the show as something to watch when, let's say, like your boyfriend can't come over and hang out and you just want to kind of cuddle up on the couch, maybe get some ice cream or cereal and watch something that's really easy, simple, kind of makes you smile maybe a little bit. So I think it's a perfect watch for that kind of situation, a casual watch, if you will. And honestly, through watching it, I really enjoyed the flashbacks to my advertising days in a big city. I think that everything they showed in the show was actually how it would probably be in the world of advertising, because when I worked in advertising at a big agency in Chicago, I was going to so many parties, and maybe I will make a whole video on that in the future because it was a lot. It was like 2 to 3 parties per week.
Paris is the most exciting city in the world.
And speaking of advertising, I really appreciated that the show mentioned that Emily had a master's in marketing, because throughout the entire show she is talking about advertising ideas and sharing strategy recommendations, and that would just not happen for an entry-level person at an ad agency. And they certainly wouldn't have flown someone who's entry-level out to Paris to go work. So I like that they said that, because that clearly means that, you know, she's been maybe working at it for a while, and it made it more realistic for me. Because honestly, with all of these Netflix shows, and be sure to check out my other Netflix reviews if you like this one, but the one thing I really look for are the little things that help the storyline to make sense. But overall, I would say my favorite part about it is that it's just a nice casual watch. Now to go into some things that I did not like about it as much, but again, not taking it too seriously. It's a show for entertainment, blah, 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 blah. One thing that I did not like so much was that they did not have Emily go to HR immediately when all of these men who were her clients and who were her co-workers were flirting with her aggressively and sending her like lingerie as gifts. Like, that needs to be alerted to human resources immediately. And honestly, the social posting she did, they had her like sidebar and do throughout the show was way too cheesy for me. I like cheesy sometimes, but most of the time I do not like it in movies. Like, I do not like a clap at the end of a movie. But they had her like taking photos of like random points, and she would just be like, Parisian living, hashtag Paris. And she eventually becomes this like influencer. So I know good and well that if somebody was trying to be an influencer, an American going to Paris, they would not just be saying like Parisian living. They would try to do some long drawn out post about how this experience has changed them, and then they would add hashtags like hashtag American in Paris, hashtag Parisian living, hashtag can I get a baguette? Okay, so now on to Parisian vacationing. Should you do it? I mean, I have my perspective, but you're gonna have to decide for yourself after hearing me out. Now I want to say that before going to Paris, I heard a lot of bad things about it. People were honestly trying to scare me, I think, because they were like, oh, there's pickpocketers around the Eiffel Tower. It's like a big city and it's really dirty. And I guess maybe my perspective was different because I was coming from Chicago, another big city, and now that I'm thinking about it, those people were not big city living people. So they were probably shocked by just the fact that it was a big, like very energizing city. So I want to let you know that, granted, I was in a group of like 5 tall guys, so would a pickpocketer go after our group versus like a man and woman just by themselves? I don't know, but we did not have to deal with any pickpocketers. And at the same time, if you're okay with little city dust on your jeans, I wore black, shouldn't have worn black, but it's just a little city dust from like the subway and just like from walking around so much. Granted, I did a ton of walking, about 4 miles a day, so that's probably why it was a bit more dusty than your typical person's would be. Now, to give you a good perspective too, because I didn't have this before going, Paris is a huge city. Okay, I'm talking to all the Midwestern Michiganders. It is huge. And what's so funny is that when they show the Eiffel Tower, they always show it in like this field, which it's in a huge park. So it makes you almost think like French countryside. Oh, Paris is just like, I don't know, the city on the countryside. It is not. Behind that picture that you see constantly is a city that is like a maze. It is, every home place looks similar, and at night everything's the same height and it looks the same, so it becomes a maze. It is a huge city. So if you are not comfortable being in a huge city, do not go to Paris. But if you are looking in the future for an experience in a big city, then Paris is super cool. It is a culture shock, and honestly, I was craving that a little bit because it's crazy that everything's in a different language and people are all speaking different languages when you're just kind of hearing them outside. It's also kind of scary because you don't understand it. So I recommend, if it's your first time, going with a larger group like I did. But the clubs were super fun. Going out was really fun. It was really weird at night because they have this like quiet time curfew. I think it's at like 10 or 11, and so the whole streets, all the streets were super quiet, and all the clubs had to have really good soundproofing. So you open the door and it's like bam, 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 and then you close the door and it's like Parisian night, and you can hear the wind. So that was super interesting for me, just to have a big city that had so much control over it, I guess, enough to make it completely quiet. Oh, and then the crepes and the macarons, I think that's the correct pronunciation that I'm trying to whip out for this, were delicious. Desserts, so delicious. There was a lot of cute bookstores, and honestly, everything was very picturesque, especially coming from a place where nothing looks like how it does there when it comes to like architecture and cool things like that. So I was just like a tourist, just going and like picture, Instagram. Kind of like Emily in Paris, to be honest. And last but not least, when it comes to Paris, one reason to go is that you can see so many pictures of the Eiffel Tower. I saw so many, and they're all beautiful and great, but it is just so different when you see it in person. It is so picturesque, it's gigantic, which you do not get the feel of in the photos, and it truly is like this nightlight for the city, which does have this kind of like soft ambience romanticness to it, which is probably a part as to why people say it's a romantic city. And oh, when it comes to that too, like, it is romantic, but it is not like, oh, I'm gonna go there for my anniversary feel. Like, I would go there to plan to have fun, see the sights, explore. Maybe I want to go back to explore the outskirts of Paris, like in France, because I know there's a lot of cool stuff there. But overall, I highly recommend going if everything that I positively talked about sounded great to you. I honestly don't have any negatives for it. It was super fun, and the plane ride was a little long and I didn't sleep well, but that's not Paris's fault. And overall, I hope you enjoyed my Netflix review of Emily in Paris. Give it a watch if everything I said sounded good to you, and I hope I gave some great insight if you were maybe on the fence of whether or not you wanted to go visit Paris. Honestly, visiting Europe is super cool because you're connected to the trains and they connect to other cities. And if you're trying to find out what other Netflix shows to watch, then be sure to check out my other Netflix review videos. And other than that, I hope you have a wonderful day.